This is a whistle-stop tour of the last 3 years of the Stargate franchise. Welcome to SciTrek, your sci-fi TV and movie channel. I've been talking about a new Stargate project for nearly 3 years, and I still get called a liar by lots of people in the comments when I give you a new update on what's going on. Now, I have to be just making this up and be insane if that's what I'm doing. Or I'm a Stargate fan trying to get you guys the information of what's going on with one of our favorite franchises. In this video, I'm going to give you a rundown of what's gone on in the last 3 years, why we haven't actually got a Stargate franchise yet. Now, I'm going to go back to 2019, and this was a couple of years before the birth of SciTrek in 2021. Brad Wright had written a script for a pilot. He was going to bring Stargate back, and it was going to be a continuation of Stargate SG-1. Amanda Tapping was going to be in it. Richard Dean Anderson was going to be in it, and who knows what else. This was going to be the continuation of Stargate that the fans really, really wanted. But then something happened at the end of COVID that kind of scuppered those plans. Stupid COVID. Now, that put a big delay on things, but it was never really cancelled. The problem was, before we could then get to that show up and running, Amazon came a-calling. Now, I heard rumors at the time that actually it was Amazon that were going to buy the show off MGM once they made it, that they were already sniffing around Stargate even then. So that just made it even more likely that now Amazon were the new owners of MGM. We were going to get Stargate really soon. And that's what we all believed. It's even what MGM believed. In 2021, after the sale went through, but before it was finalized by the FTC, MGM were being told by Amazon that they were going to be given free rein, that they were going to be allowed to do what they wanted, and particularly they were going to be able to do a Stargate show for MGM Plus. They were even encouraged by Amazon to look into it. They carried on working on the Brad Wright script. They carried on working on some other mystery scripts as well, some other idea that had been bouncing around. And they continued to work really hard on the proposals towards Stargate. There was some preliminary artwork, storyboarding done, and all this sort of thing. All of it while MGM was still under the illusion that they were going to actually be allowed to do it. But then, in kind of like late 2021, early 2022, there was the realization that actually, no, they weren't. Amazon had sort of got the sale through the FTC and had looked at the books and looked at the management, etc., at MGM, and they didn't like what they saw. But also, there was the reality of COVID. Amazon had massively expanded all of its business projects, and really, it then had to shrink them back down again. There was a financial issue here, but MGM was absorbed into Amazon. Now, that process took time, but it is now complete. MGM Amazon Studios is now a thing, and everything comes under that logo. A lot of what we knew as MGM is now gone. I actually spoke to Brad Wright about this in a little bit of a chat we had, and he actually said, look, the sources I've got at MGM are gone now. You guys know more about what's going on with Stargate than I do. Now, that was really shocking, as the creator of the show had lost all of his major connections with the studio that was still planning to bring the franchise back. Now, SciTrek was then able to drop first and exclusive at Amazon. We're actually intending to bring us a movie. Now, this was not just SciTrek talking about this for all those people that continuously call me a liar. We just happened to be first. And it looked like that was really getting into full swing and was going to be announced to the 2023 Comic-Con. Deadline talked about it. Other channels talked about it. It's got talked about on Gateworld, etc., etc. And we also exclusively and first told you that the Penguin and the Parker guys, the guys that had actually brought us The Expanse, Hawk Ostby and Mark Fergus, were going to be leading the line. They were going to be showrunning, they were going to be writing, and particularly Mark Fergus was going to be the main man for this project. Now, that progressed over a 6-month period. We actually found out later that Amazon spent anything up to $10 million developing this movie. They had actually had a contract in place with a German tech company that were going to do the CGI work. They had like a 4 or 5 month window blocked out towards the end of the summer 2023 to do a lot of that preliminary CGI work, and then it would move on to post-production. They also had some sound stages apparently in Austria, and we actually heard rumors, very much rumors, that there'd even been some preliminary work done on setting up early versions of the Stargate, etc., for the actual sets. Now, all of this stuff cost money because then the strikes happened. Amazon had already paid for Mark Fergus and their consultancy fees. They'd done a lot of preliminary work through Mark Fergus on sort of setting up where would the universe be now. One of the things they did was set up a Bible for this TV show for whoever then did pitch meetings that we then believe happened in roughly early 2022. These pitch meetings had to go by a set of rules, and Mark Fergus had actually created the Bible that would run by. So they paid for Mark Fergus, they paid for Penguin and Parker's fees. They'd also then, we hear later, had actually paid for a script that Mark Fergus had penned. They obviously then had to cancel the contract with this German tech company once the strikes happened and the realization set in that we weren't going to be filming in the summer. And all the sound stages, etc., that had also been paid for and blocked out for that period, they had to pay fees to get out of those contracts. They didn't just get out of them for free. So all of that, I'm being told, roughly estimated cost was around $10 million. So Amazon are already 10 million quid in the hole. Not as bad as Netflix. They spent 30 million quid on developing He-Man. He-Man live action movie that has now moved over to Amazon. So Amazon are probably rubbing their hands on that thing. Thanks, Netflix. You did a lot of the heavy lifting there for us. But a lot of these things, they do cost significant amounts of money way before anybody gets to actually filming. So we then hear, during all the strikes and things, that Amazon did have a massive rethink. We do hear that actually Mark Fergus left the project in late 2021, early 2022, because of differences with Amazon. Amazon couldn't seem to quite decide what they wanted to do. They couldn't decide what series that was going to be formatted like, if it was going to be a movie, it was going to be, they just couldn't decide. So Mark Fergus said, we're going to move on to other projects, and they did. We have never really had that confirmed, but as time's gone on, we've heard rumors that actually another partner was then involved in the development of the series and the movie. I've never been able to identify who that partner was. I can now, but I'm going to tell you about that in the next video because it's really important on why we're still getting a delay. The strike really put things on hold and made Amazon decide what to do next. And what they decided was actually that they didn't want to work so heavily and rely so heavily on other partners and things like sound stages they're having to rent. They had a bunch of sound stages that are being built by the Hackman Group. The Hackman Group were going to have these start to come online by the summer of 2024. I've been telling you that, guys, for nearly a year. Obviously, that is sort of any time now. The only thing is now that, again, may delay this slightly, is that Amazon have to then prioritize what those sound stages are going to be used for and what projects are going to be done first. And obviously, sound stages starting to come online in summer could be June, July, August, late September. We just don't know 100%. So we're still sort of waiting, still treading water. The problem was, though, that also during the strikes, there was a massive economic shift at a lot of the studios. So the studios basically suddenly realized in early 2024 that they'd been overspending, massively overspending on the streaming wars that pretty much everybody except Netflix lost. Paramount, everybody suddenly realized we have spent a crap load of money, and all of a sudden, because there's an economic squeeze on all of us following the pandemic, people were actually turning off their streaming providers. So instead of seeing massive increases month on month, they all of a sudden started seeing like a tailing off or even a decrease in figures for their overall subscriptions. The battle for content over the last 5 years was over. Now we're starting to see that impact us now. Babylon 5, that was a reboot that would have been nailed on a few years ago. Battlestar Galactica had a movie and a TV series in early production late 2022, early 2023. That is now gone to the wind as well. There are a million other projects that were cancelled, some even after they were filmed, like Batgirl. They scrapped them, got tax credits basically for scrapping them, and got a load of money back on insurance and other things like that. And they actually realized they can make more money doing that in some cases than actually releasing the project. Now, Stargate may have suffered for that a little bit as well, but I'm hearing Stargate is still well on the road towards actually being produced. It's just taken a little longer than we thought. I actually genuinely was told that the movie plan was probably scrapped. We couldn't really confirm that, but it did seem that that was true. Now, I am hearing some rumors that maybe they're rethinking it because there's another production partner involved. I'm also being told actually that now these studio spaces are coming on board, and basically the studios got very, very scared after the pandemic when they started to release big movies and they just weren't making money at the cinema. Things like Indiana Jones, etc. So that affected Stargate because it made the Amazon very nervous about them producing a big budget movie. But then, as 2023 turned into 2024 and we got a little bit more progressive, but then as 2023 turned into 2024, what the studio started to realize was actually, even though people weren't necessarily always going to the cinema to watch these movies, they would then watch them behind a paywall at home. And the studios were actually still making their money. In some cases, actually making more money because they didn't have to share any of it with, say, the cinemas. So they were putting movies out to the cinema. They maybe weren't doing great. They were then putting them on, Apple or whatever behind a paywall for, say, $15, $20. And loads of people were watching them. They were then putting them on Disney Plus, Amazon Prime, etc. And people were loads and loads of people watching them again. And then they started putting adverts on their streaming services and they got even more revenue. So I'm being told that actually there was a very nervous studio base end of 2023, early 2024, but confidence is regrowing. And that does mean that we might start seeing some projects going straight to cinema that maybe we wouldn't have done 8 or 9 months ago. He-Man that I mentioned earlier has now moved over to Amazon, and Amazon are planning to release that as an MGM Amazon production at the cinema. There are other projects we're hearing as well are going straight to cinema. So even though it looked like maybe in the last 6 to 9 months or so that cinema was going to be struggling in the future, actually it may have a renaissance because the studios will see it as a multimedia sort of thing. They won't be putting all of their eggs in the cinema release, knowing that there is actually more money to come later on. The cinema will be there for cinema goers and as a big advert for the actual project, but they know their real money will be made later down the line. So for the people that weren't listening, for the people that are just stupid, I have never said that Stargate was on, off, on, off. I have shared with you rumors that I've heard, and I've told you when they're rumors. For example, I told you that Stargate Universe was getting an animated movie and actually looked like it was going to happen. This was a rumor. It was a rumor that was actually probably based in some reality, but a little out of whack, basically because early 2019, 2020, MGM were genuinely looking to sort of reinvigorate their animated studio. Remember that MGM has a rich history of animation. And one of the projects that was talked about and planned was an SGU animated movie. So that rumor was kind of true, but it was horribly out of date when I spoke to you about it. And in that video, I said, I doubt this is true, but people still jump on that as, you were wrong. It's a rumor. Rumors are going to be wrong sometimes, or only partly true, if that makes sense. So, yeah, we're still waiting on Stargate. Yes, it's frustrating. Yes, at times I've been pulling my hair out, especially when I hear things about MGM Plus not getting the budget increase that it was promised for this year. Again, people jump on that and say, no, you told us it's getting cancelled. I didn't, if you actually listened to the video. But a lot of people don't want to do that because they're either thick or they just really like jumping up and down and calling people liars on the internet. I don't get it, but these things happen. Any numpty that actually thinks I'm making this shit up for money really needs to realize how little money is actually made through YouTube. These videos require a crap load of effort and you don't really get a lot out of it. YouTube makes sure of that. They do okay out of my videos. I don't. That's where we're at with Stargate right now. We're going to be getting a Stargate movie and series. Join me for that. Please like and subscribe so you don't miss it. As always, please stay safe, and I'll see you next time.